Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the Brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants. Welcome back to the podcast, brothers. This is Rip Moore, past master of Fort Worth 148.
This is Billy Hamilton, past master of Fort Worth 148.
This is Gabe Yagish, past master and sitting marshal of Fort Worth 148.
Got the old team back, boys. How you feeling?
It's been a while.
It's good.
Been a minute. I don't even remember.
We've been a little bit radio silent for a while.
It's not for lack of wanting, because I feel like for the past 6 or 7 months, we have really wanted to do a podcast, but man, we're busy dudes.
Yeah.
I mean,
it only gets worse.
Yeah, just adding a kid into the mix for you alone, takes it up 6 or 7 levels, but being part of a grand body, all that stuff, good night. It's hard for her. And Billy, master of TLR, it's a miracle, but we've done it.
There you go.
That's right. Back together.
And what are we going to talk about?
Grand Lodge.
What else would we talk about, right?
Yeah. We've had about a month to recover.
That's yes, we let the dust settle. That's what I was thinking today. It wasn't that our schedules didn't line up. We just wanted the dust to settle.
We'll tell ourselves that.
Yeah, exactly.
And let the passions die down a bit, because there was a lot of energy, in however you want to put it,
Yes, energy. There was a lot of that. There was some zeal. What other Masonic adjectives can we use?
Some fervency.
Yes, for lots of fervency. Man, I will say this, that no matter what, I hope that we take this and spin it into a positive. I mean, because wherever the side you fell on it, if you felt like you lost, you felt like you won, because that's what that was what a lot of Masons felt like. And I hope we can somewhere find the middle and get a trajectory going with that energy, because there was some fervency, man.
Yep, absolutely.
There's no doubt about it. And I hope what we did down there will progress us in a better direction.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully it brings us all together.
Yeah. I mean, we made a statement, that's for sure. That reverberated across the United States. But man, I think more importantly is what actually took place in there, because there was some laws that were passed that I thought I wouldn't live to see. And I was quite excited to see the potential that we have. I mean, because we don't have to read minutes anymore. We can choose not to read minutes.
Right.
Choose to read minutes. Oh man, what a concept! In a lodge that we might know exactly how to run. What would be best for our retention and our members, because there are lodges that they love those minutes. God bless them. Keep reading them. I'll go when I visit. I'll be like, we used to do that at our lodge too.
But the important thing there is you have a choice.
Yes, that's it. Choice. That's what I love more than anything. It's you don't have to. You don't not have to. You just get a pick. But we'll get into that.
Yeah. I was going to say something that I have noticed about the general pattern of a lot of the laws that we pass in general in Texas is the ones that give us more choice, unfortunately, tend to do it by adding a lot of language as opposed to taking language away. So that's going to be kind of a theme for a lot of the resolutions we talk about.
Yeah, and it is it's tricky getting this stuff passed, man, because people just don't trust each other. They think, well, I wouldn't abuse it, but I know some guys that, they probably would over there at 148, and it's no, the choice is there. And if you act like you shouldn't, there are consequences, and we'll get into that because there was a lot of law changes for that. I do want to cover Masonicon first though.
Yeah. Okay. Let's
Yeah,
talk about it.
absolutely.
Where are we at on ticket price right now? Is it $55 a ticket right now? Are we up to 65?
No, we're at 65 because that
Okay.
$55 ticket was the Grand Lodge special.
That's right. That's right. Okay. I get that stuff mixed up. I just point everybody to the website, but still a steal at 65.
Right. And this is still an early bird special, right? So prices will go up if you wait until April 1st or later. So if you're an April Fool, then you have to pay the full $75 price.
Listen to that marketing in that genius.
There you go.
April Fool. And I can't, we don't have all of our speakers booked quite yet, but the ones that we do, I am very excited about. We all agreed that, we're stepping up to the plate and swinging for the fences this year.
Yep. And we have a couple of out of state speakers this year, as opposed to usually we have just a keynote is from out of state. But no, we've got a couple. I've been booking plane tickets.
That's so great. And this is first weekend in August. And we'll do Friday night Festa board, which that's a separate ticket, but that covers, we basically charge cost on that, and we serve a great meal. In the asylum where it's held, it's second to none for a Festa board. And I'm pretty sure we're planning something unique for that again this year, right?
Yes, actually, I have been doing a lot of work towards that.
Sweet.
But there's a reason why the cutoff this year is 72. So you got to be one of those first 72 to get a ticket. If not, you're going to miss out.
That sounds kind of mystical. I'm intrigued. So, Festa board Friday night, and then the Masonicon event starting 8 a.m. Saturday morning. I mean, it's great every year. There's no doubt about it. We've never had a bad speaker as far as I'm concerned. But we have some great ones lined up again this year. So go grab your ticket, texasmasonicon.com.
It's going to be great.
It will be.
Don't be late. It's going to be great. All right, gentlemen, let's get into resolutions. So I got on here and I was like, let's just talk about the ones that passed. And both Billy and Gabe were like, whoa. We need
There's a couple that failed that we got to talk about, my friend.
Which the first one that came up was number one. They're like, we have to talk about 1 and 2, which what was 1? That was the Master Mason in a day, right?
Yep.
As it was.
And this is not the first time this has come up, and it comes up in different renditions too, to where it's like, well, that one you have to be an EA, but we'll push you through in a day. Or this one was like guy off the street.
No, this
right?
one was just like whoop.
Yeah.
I don't remember them even selling it up there.
They barely did, man.
Right.
I don't want to denigrate the brother who proposed it, because the proposer did go up and he gave his sales pitch.
Mhm.
And then I don't think anybody else joined him up there. Everybody else was speaking against him to the point where Right Worshipful Boyd Patterson shooing people away.
And
there were so many people. Because he was asking everybody in line, he would point at you and then he'd give you a thumbs up or thumbs down. Look at you, with the questioning eyes, right? That face somebody makes at you when they've got a question but they can't talk.
Yeah.
And you would give him a thumbs up or thumbs down, and after a certain point, he said, he said he did like a big motion of like 1, 2, 3, and then just started waving away, like just shooing people off because there was not a discussion in favor of it.
Yeah, and typically they do allow, for those who've never been to Grand Lodge, you can speak on a subject 3 times, for in favor, and then they'll have 3 unfavorable.
Well, usually they want to have 50-50,
Yeah,
regardless of amount, but they were being pretty strict on time this year because of when we got started.
Yeah, it was a time crunch, but that one again didn't come close, nor have they ever any year. And I mean, that's a testament to the things you can propose at Grand Lodge, anything you want. but it's I mean it's going to pass. This was a year too to where nothing was really that close. Anything we voted on.
Oh yeah, it was 80-20, 90-10. I mean,
Yeah, almost everything we voted on. I've never seen Grand Lodge as a total Grand West vote such lockstep.
Yep.
yeah.
And
And
I
the
mean,
attendance, we should probably bring up the attendance. If you were there, I
yeah,
don't think I've ever seen that many people in that auditorium.
I never have. There's no, of course, I mean, I haven't been coming too terribly long, but you know, my dad talks about when he was there when they voted to close the home and school. And he said that was pretty packed, but he saw pictures of, and he's like, it wasn't that packed. So there was
Mm.
something in the air for sure. And I guess we could go back and look at records of attendance between the two because it was jam packed.
Yeah.
The only place you could sit was elbow room was up there in our section where the other heathens sit. That way we
Telling
can't.
you.
Yeah, you sit down front, but you got bona fide. You got, your TLR, you've done papers and things. You're respectable.
Well, and no, it's not that. I'm nosy. So I want to be right up in the action.
We know ourselves too well because we're going to end up saying something that gets us in trouble. And of course, we did. There was a few times where, things come out that shouldn't. It's funny because I apologize to the brothers in front of us. I was like, look, when guys are up there talking, we get opinionated and we talk about it. So sorry if we're bugging you. But the guy was like, oh, I'm loving it.
Oh yeah, we were getting pretty animated up there in terms of um inter discussion and outer discussion.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps it exciting. Although that's most years. This year it was right from the get-go. I mean, because who knew a committee report could be so exciting, Good
Yeah, we
Lord.
got a couple we
Yeah.
got a couple of exciting committee reports.
Yeah, and things
Oh.
that had never happened before happened. And it's like, what does that mean? So we got to talk about it naturally.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was animated down on the floor too. So I don't think you guys had all the fun up there in
Yeah,
your
it's
little
true.
corner.
Mhm. We like to think we do. So resolution one, that one failed. Resolution two, this one has to do with the black balls, right? Where it
Yep.
was 50% or something, or
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
so it was 50% and then there was like the 50% or greater is the initial blackballing, and then there was like a gradation of percentages that worked out to the blackball equivalent in
Mhm.
terms of like, oh, like 60% is, this many years of blackballing, 75% is this many years, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
There was a whole lot of math being done there.
Yeah.
I am a huge proponent of the one black cube, but let me preface this by saying that I've never experienced the ballot box being used unethically against me for whatever reason that might be. And I could totally get a brother seeing that ballot box being used because somebody votes for somebody and they, even though they have the right to vote for whatever reason, but when somebody's voting for a nefarious reason, a lot of times they'll admit it. And that's a
Yeah.
Yeah.
shame. That's
Yeah,
a
because
shame.
they want other people to vote with them.
Yep, exactly. So, that's the one thing about that three black cube system is that they do have to, like they got a tattletale on themselves for why they're not voting for this guy. And a lot of times they'll be blatant about it. And it's like, man, the guy should have never made it into our fraternity. Uh,
Well,
but making it more black cubes is not the answer. That's worse than the problem, in my opinion.
so the problem is though, if you have a lodge that's doing that, right, that's stuffing the ballot box, unethically, that's a lodge problem. That's not a state of Texas problem. That's a
Yeah.
lodge problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you see this a lot in our state is that a lot of people bring a lodge problem to the Grand Lodge floor and try to legislate it for this because they didn't know how or couldn't solve the problem at their lodge level, and so they decided to make a statewide problem, which that's that's its own problem as well, right?
Well, and I get the sentiment because, especially in today's society, we want things to change so quickly. And we don't understand that it took us a long time to get where we are now with people that will use the ballot box ethically. And it's going to be hard to unwind that. You're not going to be able to, even if you got that law passed at Grand Lodge, you're not going to be able to go back and enforce. I mean, file charges on somebody and see what happens. Good luck. I mean, it's a tough organization to get a brother out of once they're in.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's why you need to do your due diligence and make sure that, you let a respectable person become a member of our brotherhood, right? Because not only are you dedicating yourself and your lodge brothers to this person, you are now also dedicating all of us everywhere around the world to this one person. So make
Yeah.
sure you pick wisely.
That's it. And that alludes to the time it's going to take to unwind the problem we're in. Because we're going to have to initiate good guys, let good guys in and initiate them, and then mentor them properly so they don't get mentored by those knuckleheads either.
Yeah.
I I had a few try to corner me when I first joined, and that's a big part of why my brother didn't stay. And it's
Mm.
we got to be vigilant about that, kind of stuff. And having to have more cubes to keep someone out, I see only exacerbating the problem. The one cube is a lot easier than having to get half the lodge to vote.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
it seems so icky, anyways, that if you know something bad about a person trying to join and they shouldn't, and now I got to go tell two people to try to convince them to vote. That's, I mean, in my opinion, it's illegal, but what else? I mean, what do you got to do? It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much, one of my biggest problems with it is that unless you have three people that independently all know this guy shouldn't be a member of the fraternity, you have to kind of canvas against the guy and break the law.
Yeah.
Right.
Hopefully you could make it to the investigation team in time. But if you can't,
Yeah.
then welcome to a weird zone where you have to badmouth somebody.
Yeah. And there's ways to do it that don't involve you saying, because in the most technical sense possible, if you don't say anything about balloting or anything like that, and you're not encouraging somebody to vote a specific way, you're not technically breaking the law, but that's like the bare minimum standard, right? Because you can say, hey, just so you know, petitioner Joe Schmo, um, you know,
XYZ, because we're talking
he
facts.
XYZ'd, right? He, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like you have some piece of knowledge about the guy, but you have to be one completely certain that that information is true,
Well, it's
right?
factual. Yeah, it has to be
It has to be
factual.
completely factual and it has to be provable, right? So it can't just be something that like, you know, one-on-one, like a one-on-one interaction.
It has to be firsthand factual knowledge. Like
Yeah,
it
it
can't
has,
be hearsay.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
also it can't just be here, your word against his, right? Because if it turns into, well, he and I had a private conversation and he said something horrible about my wife. Who knows about this? Oh, it was a private conversation between the two of us. You've landed yourself in slanderous, libelous territory, right?
Well,
You
and
know,
now I will push back on that a little bit because in the end, I mean, what if that guy really did say something off color about your wife? You
then that's,
better come tell me so I can drop a black cube as well if we can't make it to the investigation team. You know what I mean?
I guess so.
But you're right because
It's a tricky situation, right?
very slippery, and
Because,
it better
the
be
re
factual.
right. And the reality is too, even if it doesn't even if it doesn't necessarily meet the legal qualification of slander or libel, um he can still take you to court
Yep.
in civil
Yeah.
court, right? Like Masonic, charges not relevant here because he's not a Mason yet, but somebody can take you to court if he thinks that you're why he didn't get into a fraternal organization,
Man,
right?
and here we are, three blowhards, realizing all this liability we have for three black cubes. It's like, what happened? Let's go back to one. I mean, we were talking about it earlier. Y'all were saying it's like the only body you're a part of.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
y'all are a
Billy and
member
I
of
are,
everything.
Billy and I are involved in many organizations, not as many as some folks, but I think we've both completely destroyed our 24-inch gauges. And the Blue Lodge in Texas is the only organization that I'm a member of that requires more than one negative vote. You know, so
I still, I get mixed stories. And even when you go look back at the proceedings, it's not real clear
yeah.
why that was, and it
I
doesn't
was
make
going to
any
say,
sense.
Billy, you're a Blue Lodge member in multiple jurisdictions, right? I think Arizona and Oklahoma as well. Do they require more than one black cube?
So Oklahoma does. I believe Oklahoma has, I don't know. So now that I think about it, um, so yeah, I'm a member in Oklahoma, Colorado, and I don't, it's been a long time since I've sat in a meeting. I've never sat in a meeting in Colorado where they actually balloted on a candidate.
Hmm.
Um, and it's been,
I
geez,
vaguely remember
20
Sean.
years.
I was going to say, I vaguely remember Sean mentioning Arizona being one black cube,
Yeah.
but
That
I
makes
don't
sense.
recall.
Yeah. I just know, when I went in, but that was, 96. In Oklahoma, it was one cube, one
Yeah.
black cube.
Sure.
Well,
So,
that was like most people say because membership, people were blackballing people for no reason. So, we were losing members. Well, that didn't work. Guess what? Membership is still dropping. So, failed experiment. Let's go back to the original.
yeah. Well, and there are the lodges I've heard of. I had one past master of a lodge at OLT in Corpus Christi a couple of years ago tell me that it was standard practice. They would blackball everybody
Mhm.
one time and see if they were really interested and would come back. And that's kind of a losing. I don't know. For me, that doesn't
That's
quite make
crazy to
sense.
me.
Oh
That's
yeah,
crazy.
that's back in those days you could get away with it, but
Yeah.
nowadays that's a death sentence for your lodge. Do
Yeah.
that to every candidate and see if they can. Not with this generation, buddy.
Yeah. And this brother,
Uh,
he wasn't from Corpus Christi. He was from another lodge elsewhere in the state, but was attending at Corpus Christi.
yeah.
And I remember in the conversation, it's like, he admitted it had been about 5 years since they had an EA. And I'm like, well, maybe you need to change your procedure.
Again, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we threw the baby out with the bathwater on that one, because it's like we tried to fix a problem that only exacerbated it,
Yeah.
because now almost anybody can get it because it's so tough. I mean, even if you did know somebody, now you got to say something, and it's so awkward. It's like I got a third of a vote when I go drop that cube in. Every three people's vote actually would count for something. It's so undemocratic. Feels that way to me anyway.
Well,
Yep.
that was the argument, though, was that, it was undemocratic to let three people keep someone out, which didn't quite make sense, if I had to be honest. And I'm not speaking ill of the brother who made that argument,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
I think that argument also forgets the fact that Masonic election to membership is not a democratic process necessarily, right?
Yeah.
Or at least
Yep.
it is a democratic process. It is not a majority rule democratic process.
Yep.
The way that I look at stuff like single negative rejection, right? Or, triple negative rejection in our case. It's this idea, still stuck with me from when I worked in the oil field, having the safety guy yelling at the safety briefings, everyone has stop work authority,
No.
right? That's the thing, right? Like, and I've used that phrase a bunch of times on this podcast. Everyone has stop work authority. And that's what the idea of minority rule through the blackballing system does, because you know, in an ideal system, only one person needs to know this guy is not a fit, right? Um, and in our system, you know, obviously you got to get three guys that know he's not a fit, but um, to me, that lives up to that. It's a safety matter in some ways. It's a
Yeah.
quality control measure in others, and it makes sure that anyone can blow the whistle to stop the train at any time. You know,
Well,
so it's
and
important.
and again, you know, as I mentioned with the first resolution, is you are committing every single Freemason in the planet to this one person.
Hmm.
And if they raise red flags with three people in a single lodge, it should be taken seriously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like, you know, think about it this way. If you have, um, you know, depend on your lodge, like 10 to 15% participation, right? So let's say you have a lodge that has 100 members on the roll, right? And you have 10 guys show up to a stated meeting because that's Masonic average is 10% of membership actually attends the stated meetings. And three of them blackball the guy. That's 30% of your
Yeah.
active membership that just blackballed a dude, right?
Yeah.
That's, you know, if it was one dude and under one blackball system, 10% of those active members just voted to blackball the guy. That's pretty significant, you know? It's
Yeah.
pretty significant.
Or there's
That
been a
would be
lot of conniving going on.
right. Yeah, that would be like getting a 70% on the test. It's like you know, a C minus.
Yeah, it's
Uh
like, hey, like that was not exemplar. What's the
Mm-mm.
deal?
Got to get
yeah,
100.
yeah.
Should be anyway.
Or at least 90, right? You know.
No, that's something we got to really think about as a fraternity. Because I mean, like I say, with this now, it's become commonplace, and most don't realize we're in the minority with the three black cubes.
Yeah.
There are other jurisdictions that take multiple, but most don't. So, Res 3,
Mhm.
that's the one about the acquittal. If you are, it was not acquittal, because that if you're actually tried for a Masonic crime and found not guilty, or the jury, now don't give me quoting all this, but basically, you've been tried and you know there's no punishment that came out of it. You can't be retried for that again. So I guess there was
Yeah.
like some weird
So
law
it's
before.
it's basically a no double jeopardy, you know, ruling.
There you go.
Yeah,
Which,
I have to admit on this one, I was initially against it. And then there were you know, it was amended, and as it was
mhm.
amended, you know, it convinced me uh, you know,
Yeah,
that
because
maybe there was some merit, right?
well, originally it had if a grandmaster dismisses charges, which I didn't agree with that either, because if a grandmaster can dismiss charges any reason they want, they
Yeah.
don't have to
Yep.
give a reason. So there could actually be a crime there, either that he overlooked or maybe it was his buddy, you know, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
or somebody submitting charges as his enemy, one or another. So this does protect that to where he had to actually go through a jury, or some type of media. I don't know the exact, but it made it much more fair.
Yeah. Well, and I on the other side of that too, though, I do get the argument that you can essentially shop Masonic charges year after year after year until you find a grandmaster who's sympathetic.
Yeah. Well, and I thought they were dropping the part in there about you couldn't run for office if charges are pending, which I think is like guilty until proven innocent kind of thing. If charges are filed and you can't be elected to an office, that's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's one of the things that we do a little bit backwards in masonry.
yeah, but that was a huge step in the right direction. Can't get popped twice
Oh, sure.
for the same thing. So Res 4, that was one of my faves. Do y'all remember what that one was?
I'm blanking on the actual numbers.
So resolution 4 was the one to where 50 lodges can come together and call for a special session of Grand Lodge.
Oh, yes, within
yeah,
90 days.
Yeah, is that not
yeah.
awesome?
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's
Power to
what
the people.
saved. Well, dude, I tell you what, it's what saved the Grand Encampment of Knights Templar,
Yeah.
right? The Grand Encampment is a very big organization, and it struggles a lot with mobility because of that. But one of the ways that it has kind of overcome that struggle with mobility, uh, is that the Grand Commanderies of organization can issue called a conclave, right? And that's how a few years ago the Grand Encampment met against basically against the sitting Grand Master, and then passed legislation to remove him from office. you know,
There
so
you go.
there are some very powerful, um, and if you're in an organization where the Grand Presiding Officer may need to hold a meeting and he's unwilling to, that way the bodies of that grand body say, no, we are, you know, you are not the Grand Lodge. We are all the Grand Lodge, which is how
Yeah,
it is, right? The
yeah.
voting membership is the Grand Lodge, right?
No.
And so I think it's brilliant. Um, I hope we never have to use it.
Now, to
And
be fair, this is a holdover, which it's a constitutional change. So, like, it's
yeah, we have to vote on it again.
yeah,
Yeah.
with no discussion. Which
Yeah,
I mean, it passed so overwhelming. I can't
yeah,
imagine it not passing because nobody can rail against it now.
yeah.
Well,
But I hope we never have to use it. And this was not. There was no. Um, there wasn't a specific reason why, in terms of the stuff that I've mentioned about the Grand Encampment, mentioned for this resolution for the Grand Lodge. But you can imagine that if something
Yeah.
like that needed to be done,
Well, for
then it could be
somebody
done.
that just normally you would think that's a no-brainer. It's like that wasn't in there already
Nope.
because this is totally a mechanism to have somebody answer for something they're doing if
Hmm.
if it goes off the rails. So, well, I
well,
love that one.
I think something that's also important to mention is here in Texas, the composition of the voting members of Grand Lodge is not every jurisdiction has this, right? In
Mhm.
that the past masters of lodges have a vote.
Yeah.
There are some jurisdictions where only the lodges have a vote, or I believe, is it past grand officers, or there's
Yeah.
different ways that it's handled. But in Texas, and that could be an issue, right? If you have a only lodges have an active vote in the Grand Lodge, but the only person who could remove the officers of that lodge is the Grand Master. Well, then he kind of holds sway over. He can hold sway over how the vote would turn out.
Yeah.
But in Texas, I think the majority of voting members, the majority of votes, even with lodges having 3 votes, are still the past masters. Well, guess what? You don't have that sway over that. So I think it makes it much more, you know, as we said in a previous one, much more democratic in
Yeah.
that now you have parties that are not beholden to the person they may be calling a special session against.
Yeah. No, you're right. Typically, I think I've only seen the lodges outnumber past masters once or twice. No, normally they outnumber by at least 100 votes. It'd be like 1,200 lodge votes to 1,300 that kind of thing. Uh,
Yeah.
and I love my cousin, who's a member of Louisiana, talks about how just having the lodges, there's a lot of flip flopping with laws and stuff to where past masters having that I've been there, I've seen that, or we tried it, you know, now we don't need that kind of law, or we do. Because, I mean, not only do we get to vote, we can propose laws too. So it gets fun.
Mhm.
So, speaking of laws, Resolution 5, that's an easy one. That should have been done a long time ago. That's where they removed the Grand Secretary from uh, supervising the building that he doesn't
Oh,
own.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty crazy requirement.
Oh,
But that's
that
also just born out of, hey, we evolved past that and we just didn't get around to updating it.
yeah, we forgot about that. So we'll go ahead and clean house on that.
Yeah.
Now, That passed easy. Res 6, though, my God, that's one of the ones I was alluding to. I didn't think I'd ever live to. It is, we don't have to read minutes anymore. We can choose to do that if we want to, or we can choose not to, like adults.
For anyone that's wondering about the mechanics of that, it basically it allows the secretary to set out the minutes for view at his desk an hour before the meeting, and that way the membership have an hour to review the minutes and make corrections and whatnot as needed. And then basically you can say, hey, are there any corrections or anything that needs to be done to the minutes? No, cool. They'll stand as written. Boom, done.
And look, if your
Wonderful.
lodges didn't meet until last stated meeting most of the time, and minutes are like 2.5 minutes tops, what does it matter to you? You know what I mean? No big deal. But if you've done 4 degrees during the month and, had a called meeting, and now this turns into a 12, 15-minute ordeal every stated meeting, that adds up. And it's, man, if they leave my name off, I'm cool. I'm cool. I'll be back for the next one. Just get me on that one. That's
Yeah. No, and we had our first meeting already with that new rule in place, and I think it helped us get directly into business. If your lodge chooses to do that, then again, it's a choice. You don't
Yeah.
have to do it that way, but if you choose to do that, you can kind of streamline it a little bit and get into the business of the lodge.
No, it was great. I even told Cody, I said, it's like, what do you even do now?
What do you even do now?
Yeah, he didn't like that. I've been a
That's pretty
secretary
great.
for a while. That's why I can give him crap, because God, those are hardworking. And again, who joins to do that stuff? So that's really being dedicated to the craft to serve there. But it does pay master's wages if you ever choose to serve. So resolution 7, I'm just looking, it was withdrawn. I don't know what it was about. That's really long. So we're going to skip over to resolution 8. What's this one about? When you get suspended for a definite amount of time and you're coming back, the lodge can choose to let you back in or not, which I was on the fence about this, but they did a good job at selling this resolution down there. Y'all remember where they got up? It was about somebody saying something about his wife or something. It's like, I wouldn't want that guy back in my lodge.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Right?
I
Like, just like, yeah, like, you know,
and I get what the other side was saying. It's like you're double punishing him, but it's like, no, we're not. You know what I mean? Because it's different. Peace and harmony has to prevail in our lodges. And if it gets awkward, I don't want to lose the guy that behaved himself the whole time. Because I mean, if a guy went off the rocker once, I mean, sure, I'm willing to forgive you, but if I had to choose I want to keep around, it's gonna be the guy that kept his stuff together the whole time.
Hmm.
So I get that, because most of the time it is an either or situation. I mean, if you say something about someone's wife and then you let him back in the lodge, that guy's probably not going to come, he's going to quit coming. So,
Yeah. Well, and it kind of works out both ways too, right? Because so the person, they're not searching for a lodge to come back to. They become, they get reinstated in their home lodge. Um, but for the other lodges get to make the decision of, hey, based on his, his behavior or his past experience, do we want him to be a member of our lodge?
yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a really fair question to ask,
It's not an easy one. God, I hope we don't ever get put in that situation, and I don't envy any lodge that does, but it gives them an opportunity, a choice,
Yeah.
and allows that brother that did make a mistake, and has served his time, to come back and be with a lodge that would better serve him.
Yeah, and he can always petition for reaffiliation,
Or hopefully he doesn't live in Marfa or something.
Well, so chances are, if he lived in Marfa, that's the one that he'd be suspended and reinstated to.
If they didn't let you back in. But I tend to think most of those guys out in those small towns deal with those problems on their own. They don't come to Grand Lodge to You know,
Probably.
that would be dealt with in a different manner than Form 1 than it would be in other areas, you know. But that's just my opinion. Who knows? There's no facts that I can back that up. So
I-
Resolution 9, I know you guys got to remember that one.
Was that the Boy
yes.
Scout one?
No,
No,
gosh.
it was the alcohol one.
Yes.
Oh, I thought that was Resolution 10, but I'm thinking of the other one.
I
Yeah, Resolution 9, the alcohol one.
I remember when y'all brought it to, because y'all were the first one. I looked over the books and y'all said something about it. I was like, oh, it'll never pass. There's no way. I didn't even give it a second thought. I didn't even read that one
Really?
because
I
I
you know,
swear to you,
man, that's crazy.
I could not have been more wrong because again, nothing was close. And this was another vote that was not even close. And I
I
mean,
thought it was gonna be tight. I gotta admit, I thought that it was gonna pass, but I thought that it was gonna pass by like a hair and nothing more, you know?
they did a great job of selling it to the point to where it got oversold a little bit by
Mhm.
some of the speakers, but they did a fantastic job of, you know, laying out how we can't be held liable for somebody, you know, drinking too much and all that kind of stuff. But there were some stipulations, if you will, in that one. That was there, you know, guidelines you have to follow. So it's not like you can just start doing shots at the stated meeting. But the thing that I love is now, if you want to have a festive board in your own house, you have that option. It's not like you have to go to a restaurant. I mean, that is so awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many dining halls that are just set
Yeah.
up for it. And man, now you can have those things in your own private house, you know, right
Yeah.
there in your lodge.
And you know, my only beef with it is that this is one of those things where sure we kind of gave ourselves more freedoms, but by adding a ton of language to the laws.
Yeah,
That's
there
right. It
Right.
was amended.
Oh, it
It
was like you
yeah.
can't, no drinking before, you know, meeting, which I mean, I guess makes sense. There was a couple, it's a lot of them.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like we just added more laws, and so I think this podcast has on the podcast we've frequently advocated for the idea of reviewing and refining the law book by deleting law as opposed to adding law.
Well, and I get where they're coming from because you know, you would think that it would have to be like meticulously laid out for it to pass, you know, because you know, I didn't think it would pass. You thought it would be close. I don't think the guys that submitted it even thought that it would pass so overwhelmingly because they probably would have left all that out had they had that inclination. Because, I mean, they had to be shocked. They had to be.
Yeah, but in a way though, it makes sense, especially if you're in a lodge that may not have many options around to have like a festive board or something like that.
Yeah.
We're blessed in that in our temple because it is not just a blue lodge that we have options, right? We can still have an event elsewhere in our
Mhm.
building. So it never really impacted us as much as I imagine a lot of lodges
Oh, of
get
course not.
impacted by.
Yeah. Any lodge that doesn't share with a shrine, you know, this was huge for them, you know,
Yeah.
because I'm thinking of all those small town lodges that really don't have a cool restaurant to go do a festive board at. And well, now you just smoke the brisket and, you know, get a couple of firing cannons and voila. I mean, we'll email you the script that you can beef up yourself.
Yeah.
But that you want to take the lodge to the next level, start doing festive boards. And it again, it did give lodges choices because if they put in the rules and regulations, then it was amended. It doesn't have to go on your bylaws, so you can do it overnight. That you don't want alcohol on your lodge premises, then your lodge can choose to do that. It's not a blanket law anymore.
Yeah.
You can make an adult decision to where if you don't think that's a good idea and the lodge votes that way, so be it. There you are. You have that choice, you know. But lodges that do want to hold festive boards afterwards, or you know, maybe have a little cigar and a drink at lodge. There you do it. At the ball games, I didn't even think about that. You could watch the ball game at lodge now,
Yeah. Have
and
a Super Bowl party.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to drink. Possibilities, man. It's all there. Where are we at? Resolution, that was
10.
resolution on. So resolution 10. That was
That was the one regarding the Grand Lodge trial.
Yeah.
So this one we did out of order.
Yeah.
That's
Well, it was the
right.
You
first.
wanna
It was
tell-
the first one voted on, and by a nair hair too. We were so Friday we were doing nothing but committee reports, and it seemed kind of odd. It seemed kind of odd
It did seem kind of odd.
because resolution voting was on the agenda for Friday, and then it was like, no, Grandmaster's just doing committee reports. What they
Oh,
got up
to
there,
suspend the agenda.
yeah, and then vote on made the motion to spin the, that's right, the agenda not to vote on resolutions. And then they brought this to the floor. It was Masonic law jujitsu. Because those guys that were making these, they walked up with it because there was a couple of them, different guy, and I don't, remember that, but they all walked up with their notebooks. So they had a game book. It wasn't like they were just flying from the seat of their pants. It was a thing to watch.
Mhm.
As opposed to most Grand Lodges that just go like clockwork. This one, the clock went backwards a little bit. I don't know how to
Yeah.
put it. It was different.
Especially when you have uh, brothers who are actual attorneys getting up there and debating each other. That was
Yeah,
it was amazing to watch.
it really was. It was noble contention at its best. I mean,
Yeah.
it got a little maybe overboard at times, but emotions do that. So we have to forgive each other. But Resolution 10 basically said that if you made yourself available for a grand office and charges are filed against you, which we talked about earlier, then you can't be elected if charges are filed. The trial has to be held before the elections. So here we are at Grand Lodge, and there happened to be charges filed on someone who'd made themselves available for an office. And this resolution passed Friday night. And next thing we know, it's like going to recess, refreshment, and they tell us to get prepared for a trial in the morning. So we all leave thinking we're fixing to come back in the morning to a Masonic trial in the whole Grand Lodge session. It was quite exciting.
Oh no, there were a lot of predictions about how that was going to go down. I was not expecting a trial in the morning.
There's logistically, it would have been impossible. Not that the time thing, which one person alluded to, that it was going to take a long time, which was
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
It was,
There was the statement was made. It's not going to take 30 minutes. Hey, we know a
yeah,
Masonic trial takes as long as it takes.
yeah. Sometimes doing the right thing is it's hard.
Inconvenient. Doing the right thing is almost always more inconvenient than doing the wrong thing.
Mm,
Right.
And that's okay. You know,
But it's
being
gotta be
good
done.
is not easy.
yeah, that's so true. But I know all the lawyers for both sides weren't there, nor was the trial master. So that's where the logistics come in. That it's like they couldn't nobody was prepared for either side.
If you remember, we were supposed to start at what 8 a.m. sharp, and it was like a half-hour delay before we actually started as they continued to work out
That's right.
whatever they worked out.
Yeah, because there
But
was a lot of going ons in that morning. I do not envy the position anybody was put in.
well, just at least at the end there was peace and harmony.
I, I do feel like that was the best outcome that we could have asked for because, um, those charges without a trial, that wasn't fair. There's no way to cut that. You know what I mean? Whether they were valid or not, if the trial wasn't before the election, then that wasn't fair.
Yeah.
So, especially since they came after he made himself available. So I love that law has been passed. I wish it applied to Blue Lodges as well.
How do you
Yeah.
mean? Available for officership in the Blue Lodge?
Yeah, well, you really can't because you don't make yourself available like you do in Grand Lodge, a year in advance, really, or months in advance. But the fact that if you have charges filed, then you can't be elected to the next office because that has happened in the past in other lodges. Someone's a junior warden that they don't want to see be master, so charges get filed, he doesn't get elected, and for some reason charges get dropped, and there's no recourse. That just seems weird. Guilty until
Well,
proven innocent.
well, so my thought about this is it's kind of a double-edged sword. I wish there was not the need for this
Hmm.
resolution to have been made.
Hmm.
Um, and I do have some concerns, right? So if it's a legitimate issue, you are now taking it out of a courtroom setting in, with an actual trial master, with attorneys, with a jury that has been selected, right? From the lodge that the trial is going to be held in, uh, which you would hope would be impartial and hear the evidence and
Hmm.
weigh in favor of where the evidence lies. And now the problem is, though, is you are taking it out of that trial setting and you're putting it into the court of public opinion.
Yeah.
Uh, and so there is jeopardy with that, but unfortunately, especially in the case that we just recently had, um, I it's probably something that needed to be put in place. I just wish there wasn't that need in the first place.
You're right. You're right. But I mean, in the end, it forces transparency one way or another. And that equals trust. Because when you tell me, there's something going on here, trust me.
Mhm.
I mean, my Gen X ringer just start, "Meh, I don't trust you at all. When you say trust me, that means not to
Yeah,
trust you."
never trust anyone that says trust me.
Exactly. And I'd say that's a Gen X thing. That's a human nature thing. You know what I mean? Trust me. I mean, no, trust but there, this transparency, and especially in an organization as large as ours. I mean, transparency has to be paramount.
Yeah.
There are certain things that you can't necessarily talk about if there's actual litigation or whatever, but Masonic charges are not litigation.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with, electing someone to be a trustee for what is in essence a multi-million dollar corporation.
Yep. I mean, that's exactly what we are, just a benevolent organization, but we are. So yeah, I mean, we're governed by certain law. I mean, 501c310. So we have a right. We're kind of shareholders, if you will, in a weird way.
Yeah,
So,
a
but
good way to put it.
I think we made a statement. I say we, the Grand West, made a statement at Grand Lodge. That it's like, okay, maybe they like remembered the voting power that they had, because, like I said before, I've never seen them vote in such lockstep. That was definitely one of the most memorable Grand Lodges I've ever been to.
Oh yeah.
So resolution 10, again, I think that gives power back to the people, because it forces transparency in the end. Although I agree with you 100%, would be nice if we didn't need it, but
Well,
you
if
know,
nothing else, it forces a timeline
yep.
also.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I've seen charges pending for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So resolution 11, that was a house cleaning one about the paraphernalia that can be used in a degree.
Oh yeah, there was a conflict between two different articles.
Yeah, so that was basically to where, you know, if you had something in the lodge room that wasn't in the monitor or something, you could get in trouble for it. I mean, I get it. So now that's all cleaned up. Then Res 12 was the one that was the Boy Scouts, which was
It
poor.
was more contentious than I thought it would be. It was amended twice.
I know. Poor brother Gillespie. I mean, I love it. They came up in their Boy Scout uniform. I mean, the initial presentation was so great, but it was something that should have been so simple, but just went off the rails so quick. But thank goodness it passed. Now,
Yeah.
if you are a lodge and you want to sponsor a Boy Scout troop, you can do so. And if there's any other group you want to sponsor, you can send it up to the trustees and see if they'll approve it. So it gives a lot more to where it used to just be Rainbow or Demolay,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and that's it.
I still wish that it had gone in as unamended. Because now it's, again, one of those things. We gave ourselves more freedom by adding more language and restrictions.
Yeah.
Man,
And it's just like, guys, just removing it would have been fine.
yeah.
Uh, you know, It would have been because a lot of people came at it, saying, well, this is, you're trying to get rid of DMLA or this is going to hurt DMLA or whatever. Right. But the reality is a lodge that is sponsoring a DMLA chapter is not going to stop sponsoring a DMLA chapter in favor of another organization. That's going to be like, that's just not going to happen.
Well,
Right.
I love the one guy's story about they didn't sponsor, but they met at the lodge. The Boy Scout chapter did, and then they learned about DMLA, and that Boy Scout chapter started a DMLA chapter.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh yeah, we want some of that too." So it's
Mhm.
like, you know, hey,
Well,
give them the
and
freedom.
I think the problem that I'm not sure it was an intentional problem, but the way that the law existed previously was it was almost like it was forcing lodges to start a Demolay or Rainbow chapter if they wanted to sponsor a youth organization.
Yeah,
And again, I don't think it was intended that way, but in reality, that's what it was doing. So it's kind of nice that and don't get me wrong, right? I love DMLA.
oh
I'm
yeah,
an adult advisor. My wife's a former Grand Officer for Oklahoma Rainbow. So they're wonderful organizations. But I think having the choice there. So now if your lodge wants to sponsor a little league team, and have the lodge name put on the jerseys, you can do that.
mhm,
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes it's not feasible to get, the 15, 20 boys or however many it takes to create a DMLA chapter, or same thing with the Rainbow, you
yep,
know, assembly. Sometimes it's harder to do that than it would be to just use the financial resources of the Masonic Lodge to do some good in the community elsewhere.
yeah, and no better way to start, to see if there's interest than to sponsor another youth group for something. I think that's great. Gives us a little more
Yeah.
wiggle room. But I love Gabe's sentiment too. That it's like the true libertarian would have just done away with it all. Leave it up to the
Exactly.
lodge. We are big boys. If you haven't checked lately, should be initiating good men. Uh,
That's
so
right.
the
Our law book should be, the two commandments: be cool and don't be a jerk.
brotherly love, man. So the rest, I think, failed. Resolution 13, that one failed. That was the one where the counselor had to go to an officer leadership training. Like, in order to be a lodge counselor, you had to go to an OLT, which, uh-uh.
If you live, further than 250 miles away from a major population center, that screws you massively. You
Yeah,
know, yeah,
yeah,
I just, you know, uh, for the sake of our rural and small town lodge guys, you just can't have that.
no,
It,
dude,
it puts rural lodges at just such a terrible disadvantage compared to urban lodges and semi-urban lodges.
or El
Um,
Paso. Although El
no,
Paso's
El
been,
Paso, yeah.
they've been on their game. They've been to OLTs. They came to Lubbock last year, and of all places, they're coming to Houston, which we comp part of their expenses for El Paso guys, because I mean they are
They should
literally
be.
on an
There,
island out there.
I think there are some parts of the state that, like, if you come in from there, Grand Lodge really should subsidize
Yeah,
you
and
coming in.
Uh,
our new
especially
chairman of the education committee, Chris Galloway, he's got some great ideas of how to connect with those guys out there, and it not cost them an arm and a leg. So
Yeah.
knock
Well,
on wood.
the El Paso, there's a saying that the El Paso guys say, you know, sometimes, right? Um, and it's never meant unkindly, right? But it is a reminder, right? A
Mhm.
lot of times you'll get people that travel out there to do, Grand Lodge conferences or Grand York Rite conferences or whatever the case may be, right? And a lot of times they'll be like, man, you know, I wish I could get out here more often, but y'all are so far away. And something that, you'll hear as occasionally as a response, kindly, is, well, it's as far for us to go to Waco as it is for you to come from Waco. to us, you know. And it's just kind of a gentle reminder, these guys are putting in the legwork, you know.
And man, if you've, oh gosh, El Paso, that was one of the coolest places I've ever visited. And I can't wait to
I
go back.
love El Paso. I've in the past 3 years I've visited it at least once a year, you
Mhm.
know. I went twice last year, and yeah, you know, I went twice last year and then once the year before. So I love it. You know, the hospitality is amazing. The guys out there are wonderful. You know,
So, the thing, only thing I ever felt in El Paso was welcomed and full. You know, I ate so good
yes, yeah,
because
you do eat a lot in El Paso.
any border town that people try to scare you this or that, it's like not at any time. You know, what I mean, and we hiked up and down the Franklin Mountains and had a blast. God, we had such a good time.
Oh man,
So go check them out. You go, yeah, go visit them, even if it's for your own accord, and take the wife. We
Yeah.
drove and went by Guadalupe Peak, which did you know is the top 10 most scenic route in America? Drive through the Guadalupe Peak there. I think
I
it's
believe it.
Highway
Yeah.
84.
I
Gorgeous.
believe it.
So resolution 14, that was the one. Everybody wants an apron. This is the one where they were going to have the committee on work to sign an apron for the golden trowel. Oh
That
man.
yeah, that didn't go well.
No, no. We love
Red,
our
you don't want a new apron?
I mean, we love our awards. I mean, I got to be honest. I do love the little golden trowel thing. It's really small that you get in the wood block. And when I catch it, because I don't get to put that stuff in front and center anymore with my wife. But it is up. It's one of the few things that it is up and displayed. Every time I see it, it's like, man, I got recognition from my peers. So that is cool. But that's for me, in my own home. And the apron seems like it's gets a little flashy, but
Yeah,
that
the you
again,
know,
that's
and
me.
obviously you're the most qualified of us to speak on it because you're actually a Golden Trowel recipient, you know, but yeah, it definitely seems like it goes against the spirit of
Yeah.
what the Golden Trowel stands for.
Yeah. And obviously everybody agreed. So that was great. I think that's great. I mean, that was like when they tried to give DDGM's a
Right
title
worship, yeah, right
for,
worshipful for life.
yeah.
There was I can't remember if it was spaced apart by 2 years back to back or a space in between, but one year it was right worshipful for life, and that got absolutely hosed down.
Yeah.
And then the other year it was
Former
to create
DDGM,
no
wasn't
to
it?
create the title of past district deputy
Ah, that's
grandmaster.
right. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
because we say former DDGM, and there's nothing wrong with that because it's not a title,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Past DDGM, past master is an official title. Gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
correct.
I remember it. And they both failed. Yeah, everybody wants shiny things. I
Just
get
one of
it.
those things, man.
Yeah.
See, and that's a sign of the stand-up guy you are, Rit, because even though you would benefit from these, you're still like, no need.
Dude,
Exactly. Well, that's how it should be.
yeah, that white apron's enough for me, man. That's cool. But I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in like we did before stated meeting the other night. I about fell out of my chair. Jeremy had me rolling on the ground. That's what I go to lodge for. Yeah, I do love the ritual and exploring the mysteries, but the fellowship,
That's
man,
why I go. Yeah.
yeah, I don't need no
I used to
fancy apron.
be such, I used to, we talk about the Masonic quadrants and stuff and like, ritual and philosophy and fraternity, over the past couple years, man, I have gone solidly from ritual and esoterics quadrants to probably, fraternity and esoterics or fraternity and ritual, but like I'm way more big on the fraternity side of stuff now,
Yeah. Well, and we've gotten good at it, to be fair, because man, I mean, the things that because it took us a while to build up to that, but the festive boards that we've done, I mean, the house at Grand Lodge, all those kind of things have really added up to, I mean, friendships,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and
I
it's been
agree.
great. Don't need no special apron for all that. Resolution 15, that was the one where the endowment went to the nearest lodge in a demise lodge. Why did that not pass? I don't remember.
Because it was, well, I don't know if that was that one of the ones that got withdrawn.
No, it failed. I think I remember one of the arguments about it was how do you determine what the nearest lodge is? So, like in our building, we have what, five lodges that meet there? Okay,
Yep.
so which one's the nearest lodge?
Charter. You measure the charters. How far are the charters apart? Panther City. How hard is that? Why would that? Because so it goes just into nothing into that fund.
Well,
Yeah.
so it basically gets reabsorbed, right? But
Yeah, so
um,
nobody gets those 5% of those shares. They just sit out there and I mean, of course, it's part of the fund, so you have investing power with it, but no
yeah, I think,
large
and I think
benefits.
that's yeah, no lodge benefits, but the fund overall benefits, right?
Yeah,
So
slightly.
so it's basically, do we want to make the fund stronger, or do we want to benefit a local lodge, right? Because it wasn't even like, oh, do multiple lodges benefit or anything like that? And so I don't know. There were a
That's a
lot of problems.
lesson. Don't demise, merge. Even if you're miles and miles apart, find a lodge to merge. I mean, you could be across the state and
Yeah.
merge with that lodge because they could benefit greatly from those assets you have. Even if it's only a $1,500 check a month in endowments, that's an asset that lodge could use.
Yep. And it makes a difference.
It
Well,
does.
in the look at it the negative way too, not that I hope that no lodge would ever do this, but this would in a way discourage merging because now the nearest lodge could say, oh, well, if you demise, we get your endowment anyway. So
Oh, yeah, true. So,
Oh, yeah, that would be bad too.
God, Billy, you're so conniving.
like I said, I hope it would never ever happen, but it is a possibility.
Oh,
No,
good thing it
Billy,
failed. Yeah.
scheming and conniving all the time.
That's what happens when you spend 25 years in corporate America.
Hmm.
In the management level, it's you see some people connive.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Oh, the last one, resolution 16. This was the felony thing again. If a candidate has been finally convicted of a felony offense, he
Oh,
shall not be disqualified to receive the degrees.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
this
was
one.
just draconian, right? Because it really should be up to the lodge. I mean, some felonies, obviously, right? You don't
Yeah.
want that person to be a member of your lodge, but there's some silly felonies out there.
There are, and it just amazes me that that one we stand so steadfast on, but silly. And look, drinking in lodge, it's like, oh no, you need a bunch of regulations to do that. Yeah, drinking bad.
Yeah. Gabriel, actually, when we talked about this, didn't you bring up like if you accidentally killed a seagull, it's a felony?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like think about it. Like, if you kill a seagull, seagulls are migratory birds. They're federally protected. It's a felony to kill them, right?
yeah.
And it's like, so obviously that's kind of a silly example, but you got to think about too, like the,
I
you know,
mean, in the 70s, getting caught with any amount of marijuana was a felony.
yeah,
Yeah.
You
yeah. So
know,
think about think about the guy, you know, 18, 19, right? Uh, Maybe had a dime bag on him. Boom, done. End of story.
yeah,
That's it. Could be in his like 50s, 60s, whatever, just depending on how old he was or whatnot. And totally different person and still doesn't qualify to join.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh,
like, what?
Are
You know,
the kid putting, fireworks in a mailbox, right? That's destruction of federal property.
yep.
Hmm. There, yeah. I mean, as soon as you start thinking life is black and white, yeah, it's about the time it hits you square in the nose.
Mm,
There's a lot of gray areas to things, and granted, if you check yes a felon on there, you better have a long hill uphill battle to get in. You know what I mean? Do your due diligence as you should with any candidate. But if there's a felony on the record, dig in.
Yeah.
There's a
It's up to you to protect, to make sure the right members get into your lodge.
yeah. I
And
mean,
if you're not asking those questions, shame on you.
exactly.
exactly.
Yeah, probably a good chance he's not going to get in, but better I mean, do what you're supposed to do. Make that a practice of every candidate.
Yeah.
That may
Yeah.
be an episode soon. A revamped of Guarding of the West Gate.
Probably need to have a new conversation about it. Yeah.
Yeah, because we have improved our techniques and had more experiences and good experiences that we need to share.
Yeah.
Because it all started from bad. And now it's been mostly good.
Yeah.
Well, that's the end of the resolutions, boys. If you haven't
Yeah.
figured out who got elected to what, go look at your Grand Lodge website. Check in, log into Grandview and look and see who got elected to what. I'm curious though, who's made themselves available. Have you heard anything?
I have. Yes.
Who? Grand
Uh.
Jun-
Oh well. So. Um. I don't know if it's appropriate to discuss that on the podcast because I don't.
Yeah, we'll
You
we'll
know.
check in later because I hadn't heard of anybody. Not that we're promoting anybody, but
Yeah.
I'm just
But
curious.
I just want to be super careful
Yeah,
and
I
make
get
sure
it.
that we, because obviously with the podcast folks, one of the things that we do is we discuss the resolutions and stuff and try to keep everybody abreast. But we also try and make sure that we play fair and that we don't do anything that could even be perceived as negative.
Yeah.
And that's part of um I would have to double check on whether or not their statement of availability has been published
Oh, that's even
or
more fair. Yeah, I don't want
or
to cat
or
out of a
not published,
bag.
but like, is it available through the Grand Secretary's office? That kind of thing.
That'd be awesome. You say somebody's name and they're like, "Yeah, I changed my mind, buddy."
Yeah. So yeah, I know, I know a
Mm.
couple people that are running for a couple different things, but
Yeah.
I don't want
If you're
to.
curious, contact the Grand Secretary's office. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. That's
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 what
a
I'll
much
do.
safe. That's a much safer thing for the podcast to say.
That's what
Right.
I'll do too. But you can tell me after podcast, Gabe. Don't worry.
So, and I think that's good advice, whatever body you're in, right? Grand chapter, grand council, grand commandery, just ask
Yeah.
the grand secretary and they'll let you know.
Well, not Grand Commandery, but um, yeah. For the listeners that don't know how the grand bodies work, if you are running for an office, you're not running for an office. You are making yourself available for that. You're indicating that if somebody were to nominate you, you would in fact be willing to serve. And so with the first three bodies of the York Rite, you file an official statement of availability, right? Grand Lodge, Grand Chapter, Grand Council. Grand Commandery, there's no such thing. You get elected from the floor, right? So every candidate is a floor candidate in Grand Commandery.
Oh, that's sweet.
Well, but you know who's
I know. Yeah, there's always that's like the three black. They bend the rules.
Oh, yeah. Well, because there's nothing stopping you from saying, "Hi, I'm Joe Smo, and I've made myself available for Grand Sentinel." Right? Not a
Yeah.
problem. Uh, it's nice to have somebody do it for you, but if you're in a position where you have to explain that you're running for something, then that's okay too.
Made yourself available. It's so hard not to slip up and say running.
No, when I had made myself available, I was very clear when I was conversationally when talking to people about it, I would say, hey, yes, if somebody did ask me, I would say, yes, I have made myself available for the office of Grand Sentinel.
Yeah.
If I was talking about the process, right? Somebody was like, how's the campaign trail going? And I'm like, man, running for this is exhausting, and that's okay, right? It's a different context on that, but yeah, I was always very particular to be like, yeah, I've made myself available for this.
It is so silly, yeah, because it's like I get it, I'm following the rules, I slip up.
Yeah, one of those things, man.
It is.
I'm going to start changing the way I talk and say, yes, I will make myself available for another slice of pizza.
I will make myself available to be
I didn't
elected
actually
most charming at the lodge dinner table.
All right, gentlemen, I think we are at a good point to wrap it up. Unless y'all got anything we missed.
I think I'm good.
No, I mean you even slipped in about the 148 house and what a great fraternal experience that is.
Yeah, man. If you're not getting an Airbnb at Grand Lodge, you're missing out. Get one.
Yeah.
Just not ours.
Just not ours.
Yeah, it's too late. It's booked, buddy. That's it. Look something else. And then once you get your house, you put National Treasures and Roadhouse on repeat and
Yep.
let the good times roll.
Exactly.
All right, gentlemen, this is Rick Moore signing off.
This is Billy Hamilton signing off.
And this is Gabe Yager signing off.